A man boards an airplane. Shortly after takeoff, he hands the flight attendant a note. She ignores it, but then he stops her and says, "Ma'am, you might want to take a look at that note. I have a bomb." The events that would happen next would lead to one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in American history. And it all happened on this day in history. On November 24th, 1971, a man going by the name of Dan Cooper bought a ticket for the 250 Northwest flight from Portland to Seattle. The man then boarded the airplane, lit a cigarette, ordered a bourbon and soda, and got comfortable in seat 18C. Shortly after takeoff, he handed the flight attendant a note. She ignored it at first, but then he told her, "Ma'am, you might want to read that note. I have a bomb." Telling the attendant to sit next to him, he then opened his briefcase to reveal what she said looked like a bomb. He then told the attendant his demands: $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting for the plane in Seattle. After the flight attendant went and told the captain what Cooper wanted, he decided to not alert the passengers. He just told them that there would be a slight delay going into Seattle, which gave the airline and police time to gather all of Cooper's demands. And once they arrived, Cooper allowed all the passengers to get off the plane in exchange for his money and parachutes. He then had the pilot and the crew set a course for Mexico City, and they took off again. Now, he told the pilot to never go above 10,000 feet. And shortly before 8 p.m., he had the entire crew go into the cockpit and close the door. Now, the flight attendant said the last she saw of Cooper, he was tying something around his waist. And at 8 p.m., the crew got a notification that the back stairs had been set down and that the air pressure had shifted in the cabin. That's right, the mysterious hijacker, Mr. Dan Cooper, had jumped, never to be seen again. Now, the story of this mysterious hijacker, usually referred to as a DB Cooper due to some weird mix-up, has perplexed people and specifically the FBI for decades. Initially, the FBI decided to look in the area where Cooper had jumped, but that was kind of messy as well. See, he had jumped at 8 o'clock at night in the middle of a storm, and even the 2 fighter pilots who were trailing the plane never saw him jump. But they think it was around the area of Lake Merwin in Washington. The FBI felt that it was highly likely that Cooper didn't even survive the jump, as the area was heavily wooded and very cold at the time, but they never found any physical evidence to support that. No parachute, no clue that he had even landed. So over the next 5 years, the FBI would interview 800 people trying to get to the bottom of who this mystery man was. The only physical clue they ever found was in 1980, when an 8-year-old boy found a paper bag with $5,800 in it, matching the serial numbers of the money given to Cooper. Now, the money was found about 20 miles downstream from where they thought Cooper had landed, but that was the only clue they would find for decades. The success of the DB Cooper hijacking meant that there were a ton of copycats. In fact, in 1972 alone, there were 15 attempted hijackings that were similar to Cooper's, although none of them were successful. In fact, the reason we started to have more stringent security policies is because of DB Cooper. Before that, people were basically just walking on an airplane and doing whatever they wanted. It was the wild, wild west, but in the skies. In 2016, the FBI officially closed the DB Cooper case, but they're willing to reopen it if anyone has any actual evidence. It remains unsolved to this very day. There are so few actual mysteries nowadays, so the story of DB Cooper has captivated people for 50 years. There are tons of theories about who he might have been, and there are a lot of citizen detectives on the case. But the truth is, it is to this day America's only unsolved hijacking.